So, Harry Cole, from the incredibly reputable outlet known as The Sun, owned by Rupert Murdoch, has posted this story today. Now, on the video upload, this headline will be blurred because it would demonetize my video if I didn't blur it. But everyone who's on stream can see it at the moment, and to see it, what this is an expose of is from Keir Starmer's previous time as a human rights lawyer. He was a human rights lawyer, and one of the things that he did was go to places like Jamaica and Uganda and try and overturn sentences of capital punishment. Because it's something that he personally is massively against. So we'd go out to these other countries and then fight these legal cases for these people. Because, sometimes lawyers have to defend bad people. That's just how the legal system works. But according to Harry Cole, the most reputable of all journalists, who's never tweeted out anything very, very poor taste in the past, go and have a look at his tweets previously. There are some choice ones, I'll have you know. Thinks that it's a story. It's a story that the man who was a human rights lawyer took cases for protecting people's human rights against capital punishment. Now, of course, I could get mad and talk about how this is a ridiculous smear and that essentially they're trying to dig up any old nonsense to try and undermine Keir Starmer, because these things are all true. They are trying to dig up any old nonsense. And if I was here in my very, very neutral political commentator hat, what I would say specifically is that what I was saying before, in the Conservatives and the right-wing media more generally don't really have much to attack Starmer on policy, because all of the policy is stuff that they already want, right? His policy appeals to the kind of people who read these papers anyway. But because he's the red team, they have to find a reason to hate him. So they have to drum up all of this errant nonsense about the history of a lawyer in human rights defending people on human rights grounds as if there's somehow a scandal when it isn't, right? That is my neutral political commentator hat. But I'm going to take off my neutral political commentator hat and I'm going to replace it with my partisan leftist hat and say, ha 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 ha, isn't this hilarious? This is, honestly, all of that sucking up, all of that continual desire to show fealty to our media class, all of that schmoozing of the Murdoch empire, all of that trying to buy favourable coverage from the press by parroting their lines, by absorbing their ideology, by taking all of the money, by going to the little soirees with the Murdoch empire, all of that continual sucking up. Where has it got Keir Starmer? Precisely nowhere. All of that continual desire to get the media on side, and they're not going on side at all. Incredible. I wish I could say anything other than I told you so, but I will say that I told you so. The moment they feel like they can get him on something, even something completely ludicrous, like a case in which he defended someone on human rights grounds as a human rights lawyer. Because again, as I said, lawyers defend bad people all the time. That's literally how our legal system is supposed to function. You could also take actual bad things that he's done, but deporting people for stealing scoops of ice cream is something that people on the right actually enjoy. And that would be something that he had a choice about. He had a choice when he was Director of Public Prosecutions as to whether or not he should be deporting people who stole scoops of ice cream based upon judgments he was handing down to people in any sense who were engaging in quote-unquote looting during the London riots. Right? You could criticise him for that because that's a choice that he made. But lawyers working for human rights cases, defending people who are being sentenced to capital punishment, that's not the same thing. These are legal cases where he is defending people's human rights record, and that's fine. That's okay. As much as I absolutely despise the guy, I'm not going to critique him for something that's not worthy of critique, given how many things there are literally completely worthy to critique Keir Starmer for. But of course, again, all of that continual tacking to the right, copying these people's ideologies, how far has it got him? Precisely nowhere. Absolutely nothing. And that's very funny to me. That's very, very funny to me. Obviously, I'm not the only person to comment on this specifically. There was a segment on LBC earlier on today that I wanted to watch on stream, but unfortunately, this segment's been taken down. This segment from James O'Brien's stream talking about smears against Keir Starmer. And he's right, again, they are smears. Just like the James Delingpole stuff about the curry and a beer that he had supposedly during lockdown, even though it was a different kind of lockdown and it wasn't the same as Partygate, to try and smear him for being bad and from being from the red team, because that's all that matters really and truly. Even though he shares all these right-wingers ideologies, they decide to smear him because he's the red team and therefore bad, right? James O'Brien is completely correct that they are client journalists and they're pathetic trying to make smear attacks on somebody who really doesn't actually deserve attacks for these specific things. Does anybody in chat remember? Anyone got an inkling of any kind of memory on what James O'Brien was saying 5 years ago, maybe, give or take, about the leader of the Labour Party at that time? I wonder what he was saying, what kind of guests he was having on his show, or what kind of media rhetoric there was surrounding the previous Labour leader. That's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Do you think it's bad, James, when journalists smear politicians with completely unsubstantiated and or erroneous nonsense that is in no way something that either should be denigrating to that politician, or is somehow not true, or is just a media manipulated tactic to try and undermine the character of that person? I think that's bad too. Wouldn't it be strange? Wouldn't it be weird if this was literally what you did personally, James, to the previous leader of the opposition? Because he literally did that. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn's the leader of Brexit betrayal. And the reason why, I bet you, they took down this segment, because they have taken it down now. We're going to watch it, but I can't watch it because they've taken it off of LBC. It's in my watch later, and you can even see the hidden videos are not available. Even at that time, they must have seen all of the comments were just people saying, that's a weird position for you to take, James, given what you said about Jeremy Corbyn. That's a weird position for you to take about unsubstantiated smears and pathetic client journalists. When on your show, Simon Heffer said the same kind of stuff, even more ridiculous stuff than the kind of things that are being said about Keir Starmer. You were constantly making things say, I could never look Jewish people in the face if I voted for Jeremy Corbyn. I'd never be able to do that. That's the kind of things that he was saying. Unreal scenes. But of course, the idea that James O'Brien would have like a kind of semblance of kind of self introspection on an issue like this is obviously massively pissing into the wind, really and truly. Like gigantic hypocrisy. Because again, this was the entire media landscape throughout the entirety of the Corbyn premiership. And you know what? You can critique Jeremy Corbyn for not trying to play the game better. You can critique him for being a poor rhetorician, for being somebody who didn't quite know how to manage the attacks from the media, because they played a large role in undermining his own personal character within the public discourse from people like James himself. You can make all of those claims that you can. But it's extra ironic that Keir Starmer can try and play that media game well and still get the absolute contemptible smears. And when somebody who prides themselves on being a rationalist, on being a bastion of liberalism, who many will hold him up as being a bastion of liberalism, a defender of liberalism, of liberal democracy, can then not really tell the difference about whether you should vote for Boris Johnson or for Jeremy Corbyn. Who can not quite understand that there might be some massive press campaign to undermine somebody who is completely opposed to their values through the kind of client journalism who he is now correctly critiquing. He can't see it when it's Jeremy Corbyn because it's outside of his tiny little blinkered bubble about he deems acceptable ideology. Honestly, it's absolutely ridiculous that he somehow cannot get it into his brain that the kind of stuff that was said about Jeremy Corbyn is exactly what they're doing to Starmer now, except even more ridiculous, yet somehow not so ridiculous that he can't make that same judgment then that he is now making about the things that they're doing to Keir Starmer. So this really is a gigantic comedy of errors from the liberal intelligentsia all the way through from where we were 5 years ago, where people like they were talking about the current leader of the Labour Party, or the old leader of the Labour Party, sorry, and now what they're doing currently, it's just the astonishing level of cognitive dissonance that these people show. But, you know, again, I will say once more as I finish this segment, ridiculous smear, nonsense statement. In fact, people are digging up loads of history of what Starmer did defending people as a lawyer. And these are all nonsense. It's all nonsense. Like, lawyers have to defend people. Like, that's fine. But the fact that the Labour strategists were trying to blunt attacks from the right-wing media and then currently then get attacked by them anyway, perfect. So sweet. Love to see it. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.